NFL record for the worst completion percentage.
This is a game you need to
waiting.
win. This is a divisional matchup against a team you should beat. This is how you stack up wins.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of i75Live. We are on episode 26. A lot of stuff has happened through the world of sports when it comes to more TGL, college football signings for hirings that we're going to talk about. Some coaches finally signed their contract. And the championship games of the NFC and AFC leading into the Super Bowl. We got 2 weeks to talk about the Super Bowl, so we won't focus too much on that game this week. We've got a lot of stuff. But yes, the NFC and NFC championship game, or AFC and NFC, we've got a lot of opinions to talk about on that. To start it off, though, like we have the first, the last couple weeks, TGL. This was the most competitive match we've had so far.
It was awesome.
Week. It ended in overtime. It just so happened to be.
We got to see the first. That was the first overtime, right?
Yes.
I mean, it was the first close match we've had. So
yes,
obviously.
that to me going into this is the competitive aspect of this thing is what needs to shine to keep people coming back week in and week out. And this was great. Whether it was planned, whether it was set up like this, who knows?
You think Tiger and Rory purposefully missed those gimme putts just to give the crowd something?
You never know, maybe. But yes, I think when it really comes down to the TGL, I was worried about the competitiveness of it. And if you don't keep it competitive and you just have, Jack said it perfectly the other night, to where he said at some point these people or these players just kind of going out there having fun, shooting the shit, drinking a beer, doing whatever, that's going to rub off, and you're going to have to start to make it feel competitive and they want to win and there's stuff on the line. And this was the first time that you kind of saw that.
Yeah, it's keep it going moving forward, but I still think you're not taking enough advantage of what you have right now. And I think you unify golf. We talked about it last episode. This is something that anybody can play. Golf is a sport for everybody. And I think you should advertise it as that. And you've got 3 different golf leagues, not really 2, but you've got YouTube golf, which is a whole other realm.
I would count this as a new golf league now. I'd say there's 3.
You got YouTube, which I mean,
4 then. At that 4, you've got YouTube.
You got to get them involved because there's so much potential for youth, everything, attention. It would be so cool to see DeChambeau on there with you said the good guys.
Vanny said it perfectly because we had a huge conversation about this the other night. He would love to see a creator league of this, where maybe it's not broadcasted on ESPN, maybe it's put on on all these YouTube channels, on Barstool, there's so many groups, the foreplay guys.
A YouTube league, a Barstool team, have sponsored teams.
There's so many people and groups out there that you can bring in to kind of combine golf as a whole. And you have the pros who play on Monday and Tuesday night on ESPN, and then on the weekend or on Fridays, the YouTube guys are posting their on their YouTube, and you're watching Good go up against Barstool, and Foreplay go up against Barstool, and good. So all these different.
Well, this is something like what they did with when Brady or Manning or Rodgers played golf. You could bring on football players. Josh Allen, I guarantee would do this.
You the Capital One match thing that they've been doing for years.
Yeah. This is exactly, if you think about the match and how cool that was and how much fun that was to actually watch.
I
think the reason that this one did so well was because it was McElroy, it was Woods.
Yeah.
Tom Kim also brought some personality to it. But you know what I think they need to get to? They need to get to where this is a 1v1 match play.
Yeah.
Then I think it could be interesting. And put some money on the line. These guys have tons of money. They like to gamble. Why not throw some money on each hole and let it continue to accumulate and make it fun?
That's what they're competing for on PGA events. So why not kind of do the same thing and then still have your championship at the end like they've advertised?
I have to imagine that these are conversations that are being had anyways.
I would, yes.
It probably changes that won't be made until next year, but they've got to do something.
There's no doubt with the amount of money that they spent on just that facility alone, that there's some really smart people and they're trying to make some really tough decisions on to make this thing go.
They have big names who own all these teams, like Big Papi, Serena Williams, like all they have so many huge. There's no way out of all those people they're not kind of coming together, brainstorming ideas how to make this better. And I think it's only like
maybe
we said,
they're not though.
Each week it has a little. It's gotten better a little bit.
Yeah,
I will say. So each week it is continues to kind of evolve, get better. Everyone kind of understands what's happening, how the layout works, and that's all I think you can hope for. To go into college football, though, and
small thing,
little small thing, college football. You were kind of saying that, hey, you never know, he's done it before.
Yeah, he signed his contract.
But Bill Belichick finally signed his contract with UNC. He is officially there for how many years? Is it 3 or 4?
Somewhere? I think it's 3.
3 or 4.
3 with an option for
and
4.
He has a ton of incentives, too, for getting to championship games.
I think he cashes in on those starting next year. I got a small prediction for UNC. I think they at least make the ACC championship, and I do think they make the playoffs. I think they're going to be really fun. I think they got a lot of holes on that roster, but people are going to want to play for Belichick, especially on the defensive side.
It's going to be kind of, I think, similar to the way Colorado was when Prime was there his first year, of how everyone is going to want to watch UNC to see what Bill Belichick does.
Oh, yeah. They're in a bigger conference, too, so they'll get a lot more airtime, and I think they're going to have some good matchups. I haven't seen UNC's schedule, but I would imagine they play
they're all
Clemson,
kind of
Florida State,
trickling out over the next month or so when it comes to all these teams.
Yep.
So, NFL, though, we're going to
there was
rail off a lot of these coaches.
Happened last week.
Our favorite team to talk about, the Cowboys.
It's easy to shit on the Cowboys, but it's like, I don't know what to think of this. I don't, because it's not like Schottenheimer.
Jerry obviously doesn't think too much of it, because he came out and said, well, this might not be the sexy head coach. This is very risky, but great. That's a great thing to tell you.
It's a good confidence builder, Jerry. Thanks for that. And they hired Matt Eberflus as their defensive coordinator.
Hey, I'm all for it.
I'm all for it, too.
The longer the Cowboys suck and the longer they stay.
You want to know the fun thing? We play the Cowboys in Chicago next season. So it will be Ben Johnson's offense versus an Eberflus defense. I got a good feeling this time that we hang 40 on them. That would be great. That would be so sweet.
Yeah, that'd be, and Ben Johnson will have some tricks up his sleeve for that game, too.
Like Schottenheimer, he could be a good coach. I'm sure he has been. He was the offensive coordinator for the Jets when they were making the AFC Championship back then with Rex Ryan, and they did it with Mark Sanchez. But it's really hard to expect that he'll be anything more than a yes man.
He's been in the league for 10+ years.
Yeah, a long time, 20 almost, I think.
He's never had a head coaching interview.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I saw that.
Okay, wow.
Correct me if I'm wrong. If I am wrong on that, I believe
I read.
Was
it this year?
No, like ever
Holy
since
shit.
he's been. I could be wrong though, but I saw read something that he has not had a head coach interview since he's been in the league, and now all of a sudden he's the head coach of the Cowboys because he was there. Like the Cowboys I didn't see anything about them interviewing anyone.
They wanted to interview Kellen Moore,
no one did.
The Eagles were, obviously, I don't think Kellen Moore's taking interviews, and they're in the fucking Super Bowl right now. But other than that, I'm trying to think. They requested to interview a lot. I don't know who ended up taking interviews, though.
I don't think anyone wanted to.
No one wants to work in a zoo.
Like Troy Aikman did, and like all these guys came out and said that it's really
not a desirable job.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Because you're not going to be able to do what you want to do.
It may be a desirable job. Jerry Jones is not desirable, though. No one wants to work for him. It's very telling.
Next big one, I think this will be good. Robert Saleh is back with the 49ers.
DC.
He had his best years.
Yeah, best year as a coach when he was their DC.
This is why he got the head coach for the Jets, because of this year.
Correct me if I'm wrong. He was their DC one of the years they made the Super Bowl.
I think so, yes.
The first one, I believe, and then he left.
Yes.
But it's going to be good. I think 49ers needed this. Yeah.
Their defense was pretty
killed them.
Yeah.
Injuries in general, but
that team is still good.
He's a good leader, and it's politics aside for whatever happened with him at the Jets. He's a good coach. It's I don't blame the Jets' turmoil on him. That was just overall an organizational failure.
Like I've told you guys, though, just because you're a good coordinator doesn't make you a good head coach. Yeah, it is a different skill set. It's a different job.
That's why I think this is perfect for him, because this is what made him the great coach that we knew him of before he signed to the Jets, DC of the 49ers.
Yeah, so I expect the Niners to be right back where they were. They'll be healthy. I'm sure they'll they'll have a good draft
always
class.
Draft well.
Yes, they may lose some guys in free agency though. They've got some key guys that might leave.
They're gonna have to make a decision on Purdy as well. So
yeah, he's
next one. I know this. You can kind of run these off.
I like this.
Most of these probably really don't matter. Maybe besides the DC job.
I beg to differ.
But the
These
Bears
are kind of big moves.
I know, but
culture-wise,
no one really.
These are only big moves for a Bears fan, Dylan.
I agree.
These
the
are
Dennis
big
Allen
moves.
one though is big. I like the Dennis Allen one.
I'll tell you why all of these are big moves. Okay. So Dennis Allen, the Bears filled up some more of their coaching staff. Obviously, they need some more assistant coaches, but they have filled out their coordinators now. Dennis Allen has been hired as the defensive coordinator, who I love the hire. That means we're going back to a 4-3 scheme. We're going to play a lot of man coverage in our corners, 2 deep safeties. That's what our secondary is built for. And you know that he's not going to get a head coaching job because he just got canned by the Saints for being god-awful. But before that, he was a top 5 defensive coordinator for the Saints for years under Sean Payton.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about losing him. He's here to stay as long as he wants to stay. I think it's similar to what they did with Steve Spagnuolo and the Chiefs. I'm not comparing the two, production-wise, but it does seem like that's the path they're trying to take. And then they went and hired a 28-year-old offensive coordinator, Declan Doyle, who was an assistant on the Saints, handpicked by Sean Payton, followed him to Denver, and apparently was going to be taking a job somewhere, but he's our offensive coordinator now. And obviously, Ben Johnson is the one calling the plays, but this is the guy. Ben Johnson, in his interview, talked about needing an offensive coordinator who is going to be, attention to detail, able to stay up long nights. What's better than a young and hungry coach, like a guy who's just trying to make a name for himself? And so I think that takes a lot of weight off of Ben Johnson's hands in order for him to be a complete head coach. And then we retained Richard Hightower as our special teams coordinator. I have no problem with that. Not much to say other than good hire. But we brought in as an assistant head coach Antoine Randall, who was with the Lions and also will be our receivers coach. Huge, because that is Lions receiving room, one of the best in the league. Huge blockers, playmakers all over the place. So I hope that he brings that kind of energy into people like DJ Moore and Rome and whoever we end up bringing in.
Well, it shows also the type of path that Ben Johnson wants to
wants
do
experience.
For his offense.
A lot of these people played football,
I have a feeling it's
too.
going to look very similar to how the Lions looked
I
the
hope.
last couple of years.
In the last one, this is arguably, people didn't talk about this at all, but Al Harris being hired as our DB coach and passing game coordinator is huge for one player in specific, Tyreek Stevenson. I think he has already apparently gotten in contact with Tyreek, and obviously, for those of you who know, Tyreek is the person that caused the whole Washington Hail Mary blunder, Mr. Taunting the sideline.
Before the play even started.
He needs some direction. He needs some leadership. Al Harris is a former DB for the Packers, played for a long time. If you remember, Chris, the clip of Matt Flynn, it was Seahawks and Packers went into overtime. And I think it was like Hasselbeck or someone says, we want the ball and we're going to score.
And then he throws a pick.
And then he throws a pick to Al Harris. The game winning, yes.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
You know what
about.
I'm really enjoying, Dawson? I don't know about you, but I'm enjoying the life cycle of a Bears fan because I'm feeling so much optimism now. But if we went through this whole year, Dylan definitely went through a cycle. And I guess now it's optimistic.
Well, no, this is delusion.
It's complete reset now. We're back to square one.
Stage 5 has repeated, so we're back at stage 1, and more on that later. But yes, I love the moves. Obviously, it has to come. It's got to show results in the regular season. But I'm excited to see now who we get in free agency and the draft. I think that's next step. And then moving on to something that
this was pretty fun.
This was like this whole thing felt like a movie. Like the Jaguars and Liam Cohen and firing their GM, it was a movie.
Well, we kind of knew from the very first interview with the Jaguars owner and the GM that when he basically said if a coach comes in and has a good argument to fire the GM,
he's gone.
I'll hear him out, and he's gone. Well, I guess that was kind of how everyone viewed it around the league. And if you wanted to be the head coach there, it was this guy needs to go. So yeah, Liam Cohen, he wanted the job. He took the interview, but he didn't want the GM there. Mm-hmm. Before all this happened, signed the huge deal with Tampa to stay with Tampa. Everyone was excited because Tampa had such a good year. Their offense was great. Baker had great numbers.
Mm-hmm. They offered him to be one of the highest paid offensive coordinators, but there was a stipulation that he could not take a second interview with Jacksonville.
He didn't sign it, though.
He didn't sign it.
It was a verbal agreement of this is what I will.
Which means jack shit in business.
Yes, it does.
I think we all know.
And then, just so happens, Jacksonville fired their GM. All of a sudden, Liam Cohen was on a plane to go do a second interview.
Well, all of a sudden, apparently Todd Bowles tried to get in contact with Liam Cohen after that happened, and Liam Cohen was nowhere to be found, ghosted him. And then, at 5 p.m. that day, finally gets in contact, I'm guessing after Liam Cohen already had the interview with Jacksonville, tells Todd Bowles that he's at the doctor with his sick kid, and then briefly mentions that he has interest in the Jags position.
And then later that night it comes out
he's
that
hired.
He's the head coach. So yeah.
That is not a snake move. It's like, oh my God. And then seeing his press conference and like just how he carries himself.
Duval. It sounded very similar to like kind of the Dan Campbell.
I get Adam Gase vibes
Nick
from
Sirianni.
him. I get Adam Gase. Well, Nick Sirianni, see, like that's kind of a point to his credit that really he could have just been nervous and the Jags go 13-4 next year. Well, and they have one of the best offenses.
That's the thing though, is I think
not everyone's a good public speaker.
And people blow it up and dissect it and all this shit. Like who gives a shit?
After everything that happened, it was put under a microscope.
Yeah, like, and that's with everything. And to me, it's like that could be the meme of them winning the division next year, and then it's like, well,
it's a video of him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I won't judge the hire because he's everywhere he's gone. He's had a good offense. He turned Baker around. It was great, but. We'll wait to see. His press conference was very
Bulky's been blackballed, though. Like, this guy will never be a GM again in the league.
He's got a bad track record already. This is probably his last stop.
It sure should be.
Yeah, with everything with the Niners, and I mean, him being the reason that Harbaugh is pretty much not a Niners coach anymore. And then I think, did he have a stop in between the Niners and Jacksonville? I want to say he did, but I don't know much about him other than the Niners and this shit. And the fact that, every head coach that I think Ben Johnson turned down the Jaguars because he didn't like their setup. Yeah. It's code for he didn't like the GM. Yeah. Liam Cohen backed out. He took his name out of the running and then went back to Tampa because of the GM. Oh, man. Jacksonville.
So to name off some of these other ones, Raiders.
This was big. I didn't see this coming.
Yeah, I didn't see this one either.
At all.
Well,
Pete Carroll is apparently giving Tom Brady, I don't know if full reign is the right word to use, but tons of control and influence over who the next quarterback is going to be. Which I think you should. Yeah, you fucking should.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
So to go on that, what are they going to do at quarterback?
They're probably going to draft someone.
Shador? Do you think they trade up to one?
I know you've kind of thrown out, hey, what if they sign Justin Fields? I don't think the Steelers are ready to let go Justin Fields yet just because they have a huge question mark at quarterback.
I've heard news that Pittsburgh, they want either Justin Fields or Wilson, but not both. They got to choose. If
I'm the Steelers, I'm going with Justin and see what he can do and then go from there.
Oh, over Pro Bowler Russell Wilson this year? Pro Bowler Russell Wilson?
We'll get into that. I think that's a joke. To finish off some of these coaches, though.
I actually like this Bengals hire. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Former Notre Dame, DC.
Yeah.
I think.
Al Golden.
You just really never know with some of these guys.
Well, the Bengals have players on defense. I was talking with AJ about this yesterday. It's like the Bengals got plenty of guys on defense. So it's like I got to assume that the scheme was the problem. Guys were wide ass open all year last year.
Well, they had the guy who had the most sacks in the league.
Trey Hendrickson. They got Geno Stone, who was an all-pro for the Ravens 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then they got good rookie corners. I like their linebackers. And they drafted that D-tackle out of Michigan.
Well. Yeah.
Yes. Like the Bengals got
and
a guy that should be the fucking MVP
ball,
this year.
If they figure out and pay some of the guys they need to.
O-line still needs the O-line.
Your running backs are good. Your receivers, if you can keep them, are good. I think your tight ends are good enough with Gesicki. Maybe draft another rookie, later, and then you got Burrow. So I'm optimistic about the Bengals are kind of in the same boat as the Bears for me. Yeah, because on paper, it should work.
Show me,
but you gotta show it.
Show me.
Next one,
Aaron Glenn. This happened right after we finished wrapping up our episode.
I think this is a great one.
I think so too.
I think the Lions are kind of. What they built with the coaches they had, these are the type of people you want to lead your organization.
Yeah.
And someone as in the Jets, to what we've seen, how they have been the past couple of years, Aaron Rodgers or not.
I heard news that Rodgers and Glenn are going to meet and apparently figure out whether or not it makes sense for Rodgers to come back. I mean, Rodgers looked good. He's coming off an Achilles. You're going to be rusty, but his back half of the season was great. Like, he played very good. They just didn't win games.
There's only room in New York for one Aaron, as far as I'm concerned.
I wouldn't be surprised if he. I mean,
Aaron.
If I was going into it, I would honestly want to restart everything.
I would too, but it's like you can't
because what happens?
Hard reset.
I mean, at the quarterback position, hard reset at the quarterback position.
Who do you bring in?
Anyone, because you know what
Justin
Aaron
Fields?
Rodgers does. If Aaron Rodgers goes out and has a bad year, it's not Aaron Rodgers' fault.
Yeah.
It's Glenn's fault. And then all of a sudden, he's on the hot seat again.
That's true.
And then what? You got to get rid of Rodgers because he retires. And then you got to get a rookie quarterback. Say rookie quarterback doesn't do good. This is his second year now. Now he's even more on the hot seat.
The Jets are...
So
the Jets have a lot to figure out.
They do. Texans fire their OC. This was a little surprising.
Very surprising. He was a hot head coaching candidate last year.
And their offense took a little bit of a dip, like I'd say halfway through the year towards the back half. They had a lot of injuries, though.
Yeah, they did.
So I kind of see why this happened. But at the same time, I'd look at it and be like, did you see what happened to my offensive line, to my receiver group?
I have a theory about why this happened. I don't think it necessarily meant that Slovic wasn't doing a good job as OC, but him and Stroud apparently never had a good relationship. I think during Stroud's draft process, this is coming. I saw a report from a radio show this is coming from someone who is close with Stroud, that when Stroud was doing his draft meetings and stuff like that he did not like Bobby Slovic. It's Bobby Slovic. Their initial interaction was a confrontation, apparently. And it did not, it's like they were in each other's faces, and it was apparently not fabricated, but staged by Slovic because he had heard that Stroud was a little standoffish when he gets pressed a little bit, or you're trying to put him in check. And Stroud didn't like that very much. Apparently, he did not want to go to Houston at all. And, fast forward, they had a good rookie year, but, conversations behind closed doors never really fully come out.
Yeah.
I have to assume that Stroud had something to do with Slovic getting fired.
Maybe
a little bit.
Last one, we have no idea who the Saints are going to hire.
Who the fuck is coaching the Saints next year?
Yeah.
Because Mike McCarthy apparently is out.
I saw that.
Cliff Kingsbury's coming back.
Yep.
Joe Brady's coming back.
Yep.
Their last option is apparently Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator for the Eagles. And if he doesn't take it, they're going to go and revive, dig up Jimmy Johnson or someone.
Yeah,
I think he's still alive. But
you should hear the Atlanta fans, though. They're stoked that the Saints are completely, totally lost right now. They love it.
I don't have the whole list. You might be able to find it online, Chris, but the Saints are the worst, least desirable position maybe in the last decade, but further. The Saints are negative $100 million under the cap.
Yeah, they've been
over the cap. Yeah. I mean, they're most of their roster is over 30. They have no quarterback. They have nothing.
Yeah.
And they're literally in the dump money-wise. Who the hell wants to, especially if you're a head coach that needs this, is trying to build yourself up for maybe a position later. Why the fuck would you go here?
Well, yeah, if you're some of those guys like Joe Brady and just stay where you're at.
You're winning. Why would you go to Hurricane Katrina? Literally, this.
No, I agree. To get into the NFC Championship weekend, though,
good games.
The first game we'll talk about because it was played first. Let's do that one.
Yeah,
Commanders, Eagles. Philadelphia,
Philly, man.
Their defense was great. God. They forced a lot of turnovers. Yeah. Not Jaden Daniels turnovers, but they forced some fumbles.
3 fumbles.
Yeah. And I think the Eagles offense, Jalen Hurts
answered the call.
Give you credit. When we talked about you last week,
I have no complaints.
We weren't saying that you were bad. We weren't saying, but
just at some point, you're going to need to be.
Eventually, you're going to need to put the team on your back.
That's
and I think
he
did a great job of that.
Saquon had a part, but dude, Hurts was fucking money.
AJ Brown played great.
Yeah,
their secondary and D line played fantastic.
Replicate this
of not letting of Jaden Daniels get out of the pocket and scramble and make plays with his legs.
Philly's defense is
really good. Philly's defense is really good.
I mean, Saquon, in my opinion, Saquon deserves MVP. When you really boil it down, like who else had more, like played more of a part in every single of their team's win and losses, everything. It's ridiculous that him and Jamar, one of them's leaving without an award this year.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. And that, when we get to that part of our show, we'll talk about that. But Saquon needs to be MVP, and he's not going to get it.
It is hard to argue because you can say, hey, if you take Saquon off of that team, they don't beat the Rams.
Fuck no.
In the snow. They probably don't win a ton. They don't beat
the
Packers
division.
in the beginning of the year.
They don't win the division.
Because he had 3 touchdowns in the beginning of the year.
Nope.
So, yeah, you can look at him and go, hey, if you take any
MVP.
player off any of these teams right now that made the playoffs, who's not even close to where they are
Josh
right
Allen
now?
for the Bills, that's it. That would be...
I'd say the quarterbacks is a huge, but you take Saquon off of that team, I don't think they're in the Super Bowl right now.
Hell no.
Yeah.
And it's like on the other side, Washington, I mean, no one saw
Great season.
them.
It would complete rebuild
There is
in a way.
nothing to be sad about if you're Washington, like at all. Yeah, you lost, bummer. You'll be right back there.
You're
next
not.
year.
I think you're only going to get better.
You're only going
to get.
You're getting older, more experienced.
People.
There was green in the Super Bowl logo, so it had to be the Eagles anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to round out the Commanders, though, you're going to get free agents and guys to
and
want to
you're keeping
play.
your offensive coordinator too.
Yeah.
He's not leaving.
Yeah.
The biggest part, you don't have to make Jaden Daniels reset in a system. He gets the same system.
Yeah.
More VR training in the offseason. He's got to avoid the sophomore slump, but
a lot of great things to come for the Commanders.
Yeah. Oh, no fucking doubt.
The next game, the Bills and the Chiefs.
Awesome.
I think this was a really rough one for Bills and Josh Allen fans. He's now 0-4 against Mahomes in the playoffs.
I mean, they're used to it. They've lost 4 important games.
This one felt like it was... To me, I look at it and go, you can think whatever you want about the calls, about the worthy catch, about the fourth down conversion.
Is a loose term.
You had the ball with 3 minutes left to go in the game.
Oh, yeah.
Down by 3 points with 3 timeouts.
Yep.
Your stardom, I'm here, Josh Allen,
was your moment.
Given to you on a silver platter.
You had it.
You had it. To go down and make a legacy drive, to beat Mahomes, the guy you haven't beat in 3 years, to go to the Super Bowl. And you couldn't do it.
And how many times has Mahomes lost a game that you gave him 3 timeouts and 3 minutes to go win the game?
Never.
Never.
The same way Tom did. When Tom got the ball and all of a sudden there were 2 minutes, he had 2 timeouts, you knew what the hell was going to happen. Mahomes, you know what the hell's going to happen. Josh, here's your moment.
Yep.
And you didn't do it.
Crazy. No, but we have a whole section for it, so I'm not going to talk about the calls.
Yes.
But the Chiefs' defense does not get enough credit. They didn't get enough credit last year. This is the reason they're three-peating. And yes, Mahomes, best quarterback in the league.
He doesn't make mistakes.
Doesn't make any mistakes.
Yes.
Never makes mistakes.
He turns it on in the playoffs. You know, he flips that switch.
You are winning because of your defense. Yeah. This is crazy.
Well,
the blitzes.
The clutch plays that you need to win games.
Every time you need to generate pressure, the Chiefs are generating pressure.
Yeah.
Like that fourth down play, nobody in America thought that corner was blitzing. No. They had 6 guys on the line already, and he brought a fucking 7th.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And that's why that play ended up being the way it was.
Scared money don't make money.
Yes.
And that won you the game. Like that, even though Kincaid should have caught the ball still, and apparently from the words of Devin McCourty and the people in the booth, there was a flag that was thrown the second Josh Allen let go of that ball, and they picked it up once Kincaid dropped it. I'm just saying, I don't know.
I heard them say that.
Devin McCourty confirmed that. He wasn't on the broadcast. He was there at the game.
I didn't see that.
I'm just saying.
I didn't see that.
I'm just saying.
But yes.
You still earned the Chiefs. You earned it. You earned it. Questionable somewhat how you got here, but you earned it. Like
you got home field advantage.
You can't knock them. Yes, you earned home field advantage. It just... Mahomes had 15 air yards this game, 245 total passing yards, and 230 of those were after the completion.
Yeah.
Good offense, very balanced attack. Philly's going to have to play a perfect game.
Philly's going to have to play a perfect game. You can't give them interceptions. Hurts is going to have to play great. Saquon is going to have to. I know the Chiefs' run defense is very good, but you're going to need Saquon to get, probably 100 yards and a touchdown, and Hurts is going to have to throw for 250 plus and a couple touchdowns, and maybe run a couple too, and play perfect with no turnovers to beat this team.
And not fumble.
And even with all of that, if they do all of that, you still may not win because of Mahomes.
But so I've got something pulled up that I did want to share on the show. This may make you a little upset, but first 7 years of a starter. All right, first 7 years as a starter. This is Mahomes and Brady.
I already know what you're talking about.
Brady.
Don't even compare.
Just wait.
2018 football to 2001 football.
Just wait. Playoff wins: 14 for Brady, 17 for Mahomes.
Yeah, okay.
MVPs: Brady 1, Mahomes 2.
Yeah.
AFC titles: Brady 4, Mahomes 5. Super Bowls: 3 and 3. First team All-Pro: Brady 1, Mahomes 2. If Mahomes wins the Super Bowl, he has swept Tom Brady in those for the first 7 years as a starter. That doesn't mean he's going to have the same back half as his
7 years.
Career. Yes, exactly.
Tom Brady had 3 separate Hall of Fame careers.
Exactly. He's going to have to do this 2 more times, but he's on good pace right now.
Oh, I'll be the first one to admit that I think what Mahomes is doing would put him very, very close.
1A, 1B, almost.
If he three-peats, I think he's the second best quarterback.
No doubt.
Right now behind Brady.
Yeah.
This is my argument with Brady and what I say. Brady did this with, I think, 3 different supporting casts of players.
Oh, he did it with 3 generations
He also
of players.
had different play
Not just
callers.
3 different supporting casts.
He had Bill O'Brien.
Yes.
He had Josh McDaniels. See, Mahomes has had Andy Reid this whole time. And
that's true.
So
he's also had Kelsey the whole time.
He's had Kelsey the whole time. He's had Chris Jones the whole time.
What happens
Look
when
at Brady.
Those guys retire?
Brady had Mike Vrabel. Brady had Rodney Harrison, and then Mike Vrabel retired. Rodney Harris went away. Then you had Vince Wilfork. Then you had Patrick Chung, Devin McCourty, and then all of a sudden those guys went away. And then on offense, you had Randy Moss for a couple years, and they didn't even win the Super Bowl when Randy Moss was on the team. You had Devin Lloyd. You had some of these guys that he was winning Super Bowls with, and then all of a sudden they were gone. And you had to reload, and you had Wes Welker, then you had Julian Edelman. Yes, you had Gronk. So he was able to take these core groups. Yes, it's him and Belichick, but it was him and Belichick, a different offensive coordinator with different weapons, different running backs. Sony Michel, Kevin Falk, all these guys that it was able to just plug and play. When Mahomes can do that, I think that will show me, and I think to a lot of other people, that hey, he's legit.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's not, because I think a three-peat, you can't get lucky and do that.
No.
So what they're doing is unheard of, and there's a reason why it's never happened before. Yes. And if he does do it, which I probably think he will, it's only going to boost him up. But to me, there's just so many moments, and say if I'm a little biased or not, but the 28-3 Super Bowl.
Oh yeah,
I in this day and age, I don't think he can pull that off. I really don't. I mean, that was yes, you had things happen in that game.
The catch,
and then the sack on them to get out of field goal range.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan deciding to pass the ball.
Yes, but there's just a lot of things that he's going to have to do to where it's recency biased, I think too.
Yeah,
it's easy, and everyone loves doing this. It's the same thing with MJ and LeBron. Everyone wants to have a new GOAT and a new best and a new this. They want something to talk about.
You need a king. There needs to be a king.
And right now he is. And I think kind of what Chris mentioned it to where Peyton Manning and Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers and some of these guys,
Mahomes
Ben
is
Roethlisberger,
killing the legacy of these guys.
All those guys who were playing while Tom Brady was playing, it's the same thing.
It's like everybody you had to play with Tiger Woods. But I have a question though, Dawson. So I have a question, Dawson. If Mahomes, in the second half of his career, if this is the first half, repeats exactly what he's done to this point, now, is he the GOAT? Or is it still a 1A, 1B? Is it the argument of LeBron and Jordan?
It's going to be really hard to not say he isn't.
What if he does what Jordan does and repeats twice?
If he matches the Super Bowl titles of Tom has 7, the Patriots have 6, but if he goes and matches 7 to match Tom, you already put in the statistic numbers that he already is going to naturally have because of the way the NFL is now and because of the way it was back then when Tom, first started playing. On paper, it's going to be hard to not go, he's the best to ever do it. For Super Bowls, he won games. he has a 3-peat if he ends up doing that.
Yeah.
The yards, the touchdowns, the everything. But there's so much time, and I don't know why everyone's so fast to rush it too. Like kind of how you said, we're kind of lucky to go from watching a guy like Tom Brady to now watching a guy like this.
Yep.
Like, enjoy it. Don't just wait for it to get over so then we can go, oh, who is better?
Yeah.
Like, just enjoy it.
Why not talk about who's better now?
Like,
Let's stop wasting time, guys.
Like, just enjoy it. And I know they're getting a ton of shit and they're cheating and they get all the penalties and they have so many pass interferences and the teams they play don't and rough. And so I get all that and I understand that that's just what the narrative is always going to be. But enjoy it. Like, you're watching the people saying, oh, I'm not going to watch the Super Bowl. I'm not going to do this. You have a chance to watch something that will probably never happen again in a 3-peat.
Yep.
In today's realm of just the way sport and the
NFL
is set up.
Off.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it. Did I say I wasn't going to watch it when this game got over? Yeah, but everyone knows they're going to turn it on and watch it. I don't care what anyone says.
Yep. Well, speaking of officiating,
yes.
This is not centered at the Chiefs, although the Chiefs are going to be made as my example during this. But the NFL has an officiating issue. It's not just the Chiefs. It's the whole fucking league. And there have been horrible instances where it just felt like the refs have completely stolen the show. And it gets progressively worse each season. And I feel like it's hit the climax now.
Well, and my thing is with the technology that we have, and we don't want to make the games 4 hours long. Make the games 4 hours long.
Please,
so
more football.
It's right.
Yeah, so it's right.
So we don't have to sit here and everyone has to talk about this.
Have you seen a tennis match though, when the ball, whether it's in or out, that's seconds.
So my
argument,
my argument for that,
and there's reviews for that.
You can put a chip on the ball, but it does get messy.
But it only takes a couple of seconds to review. It's like under 30 seconds and it's done.
But the thing with the tennis comparison, because I saw that yesterday, and the reason you can't is because how are you gonna have a chip in the ball? If that's what they do to determine where the ball is, you'll never know when a knee's down or anything's down before the ball gets there.
Yes.
And so that is why you can't. But you can use way more video.
At least you'll know where the ball's at.
You can have
video, and then you could just use. You know what? Fuck. You just Chris.
Yeah, that's actually
the argument
a great
for
point.
me. That's a great point. You could literally have a chip on the ball for the first down marker, and then use the video to see where the fuck the knee is at that time.
Where the ball is at that time. Yes. And the problem is you can just have. You can have a dedicated crew. There's so much money.
I mean, look at they've got GPS on all these players. They have GPS. They know exactly where these guys are at.
Yeah.
They know exactly how fast they're going. They know all the moves they're doing. Don't tell me they can't do this. They don't want to do this.
It's laziness.
The chain gang is literally there to just tear and break their legs on the sideline when players run into them. That is their only purpose at this point.
It's just laziness. There's no reason why you couldn't have a dedicated couple people at
is it
each
laziness
game in the
or
booth.
Is it control? Is it trying to influence when you can, when it's possible? That's my argument. And this past weekend, before I go into the Chiefs game, the Washington game, and the refs having a whole monologue, turning on his mic. So here's the situation, guys. You guys can let them score, or you can stop jumping offsides, or we could just give them the score.
So that's happened one time before.
That's crazy.
It's also, I know it might kind of sound a little silly, but in Madden, they call it griefing, to where if you run over the line of scrimmage so many times, you get kicked. That's basically what this rule is.
I guess.
To where you can't just, because they could have sat there the whole time and just killed the clock because the clock kept on running.
That's true.
So they could have sat there, just jumped off, they barely moved the ball. At some point, though, the refs are going to be like, look, just give them the score. They're going to get it.
Yeah,
you're doing this on purpose, so that it's happened one other time.
Yep.
But yes, I do hear what you're saying.
Wait, stop. It's happened one other time. How many teams have actually done this stupid tush push successfully? We know one time, right? Yeah. I want to watch football. I am sick and tired of turning on the TV and happen to watch a rugby match. I don't want to see that damn play. I want it out of the game. Period.
What I hope happens is that Philly wins the Super Bowl on a tush push this year.
Then the Chiefs
Chiefs get all pissed. We lost our 3-peat because of a play that's not even football. And then it gets banned. And then, best case scenario, the Chiefs don't get their 3-peat. Philly doesn't get to run that dumbass play anymore. The world is healed. Everything is okay. Peace.
Well, I think you just called out the script, Dylan. That's the script. That's what's going to happen.
It's a hip drop tackle. That's
my argument to that, though, is if you can't pull a player If it's a penalty to pull a player,
I love this argument.
Why is it not a penalty to push a player?
It should be. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. it's really the same thing. So, and I've had that argument for years since the tush push was a thing.
Well, now that we have this podcast, maybe someone of importance hears it. But sorry, I tried to use another example, but apparently that one's not good enough. So the Chiefs, yes, you are my example. You guys get help more than anybody. And I'm sorry, it's just the truth. I could bring up stats if you want. Go ahead and leave a comment if you really want to disagree. But it's ridiculous. And the Chiefs, yes, they earned that win still. But you can't say that there weren't calls throughout this year in general, but that game. Well, in what world? I won't even talk about the fourth down because we had a discussion that's saying don't run the QB sneak. You literally watched the Chiefs earlier in that game line up for a sneak, and then Mahomes runs out to the side, rolls out, wide open. And you had a pitch option if someone covered him somehow. And I'm guaranteeing you that there was a pitch option on the inside of that play too. Why? What's stopping the Bills from replicating that? The Chiefs have been doing that for 3 years. But the Xavier Worthy catch, that's not a catch. That's ruled incomplete or intercepted for 31 other fucking teams. That's crazy. Xavier Worthy never had two hands on the ball.
Yeah,
he only ever had one. Cool. The ball touched the ground. People want to go crazy about that. The ball didn't move. You can't say that. So we go to tie goes to the receiver. How is it a tie when a DB has two hands on the ball the whole fucking time? Xavier Worthy only ever has one. His other hand's on the ground. Oh, but it's a tie. They reviewed it too, so it wasn't like the Chiefs ran hurry up. They got 20 yards upfield and hiked it before they could. No, they looked at this. They fucking looked at this, and it was still ruled a catch. How? They scored a touchdown on this.
Disgusting.
This put them on the 6-yard line.
This is the one.
This is what we're talking about. Like you say, we're complaining, but this shit happens.
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts in week 2 or 3.
The Bengals.
Bengals. That was pass interference, but still,
it was really close though.
But the point is that even if it's 50-50 or even 75-25, they're getting that fucking call. Yeah. That's not fair.
Well, and it's not just the Chiefs, though.
It's not just the Chiefs.
A lot of teams, it's
not just the Chiefs. But
unfortunate.
The Chiefs have to be my example because it happens with them more than anybody.
And it decides games.
It decides games.
It happens on pivotal plays.
Champions. It's not good for football, and it's going to start affecting the ratings soon.
So, to mention the Super Bowl a little bit, what do you think is going to be the big call in the Super Bowl?
Hip drop tackle. That's my guess.
I think it's been called not one time this year, and it's going to get called in the Super Bowl for the first time?
Hip drop tackle.
Yeah.
Just wait on it. That's the reason they added this rule. That was the reason.
Yeah, there's no telling what's going to happen.
It's crazy. And then the late slide shit. It's just I could go on and on, but I won't because it makes me sound like a bitch, okay?
Okay. It's okay.
It's ridiculous.
I think it is a good that I look at it though, and I look at the Bills, and like I kind of mentioned, they had the ball.
There were plays to be made.
There were plays to be made. Don't let that 4th and 1 QB sneak come that close and let the refs decide it on a spot of the football.
Maybe that whole thing happens where they still get the ball at 3:30, but maybe they have the lead because of what happened earlier, and that wasn't a catch, and the Chiefs had to settle for a field goal. And then they're trying to preserve. Then they're playing conservative, not trying to get chunk plays.
I agree with you. I agree. But at the same time, you had the ball for 3 minutes, no matter what the score was.
Yeah.
Look, it was a shitty play call. It was shitty. Everything that happened, and I agree with you 100%. I think the officiating sucks. But what happened in that game, though, and when they were calling those plays to go on 3rd and 1 the way they did, to then sneak it on 4th and 1, why put it in the ref's hands when you already know that usually it goes the Chiefs' way? Yeah. So why risk it?
That's on you.
Why risk it?
My only issue with that game is the catch that was not a catch. Yeah. That's not a fucking catch. I do not. Chiefs fans in our fantasy group chat, if you're watching, you know that's not a catch, okay? You know it's not.
Jerry, talking to you.
That's not a catch, Jerry.
Oh, man. NFL Pro Bowl, though.
The most useless thing the NFL has ever come out with.
This has really become so stupid and unfortunate.
It really has.
It really, all the opt-outs to then now adding Baker Mayfield, Bijan Robinson, Malik Neighbors, Jackson Smith, great.
Mike Evans making it
great.
Cool. Yeah.
Cool. But now the AFC quarterbacks are Drake May, Joe Burrow, and Russell Wilson. It's a joke. It's a joke.
Someone bring up the meme.
And I'm a Patriots fan, and this is cool, but this is like the same shit where Mac Jones got in a couple years ago, and it was
when Trubisky made it.
Like what? Like, this is stupid. This is so dumb.
It is. It really is. And it's you alluded to it. 23 players have already opted out of the Pro Bowl. It's basically it's a new roster at this point. It's so fucking, the only people that didn't drop out are the linemen for the most part. Like, that's it.
And like Brian Thomas Jr. making
Deserving.
it is great because we said he should have made it from the beginning. I think Jonnu Smith had a really good bounce back year with Miami. And James Cook had the most rushing touchdowns in the league this year. Deserving.
Bijan would have made it had there not been a guy named Saquon that decided to go off and have
and Gibbs was also there. And so yes, there were a lot of snubs that just naturally happen. But some of these other people making it is just like, really, this has just become so stupid. It's become stupid because like, these players don't even want to go to it.
They don't care.
They don't care.
They want to start their offseason. They want to go to Cancun. As much as we joke about it, they want to go to Cancun. Like, that shit's fun. Like, you don't want to...
it's the way that these seasons unravel, you need some time to just kind of go away and start to prepare for the... And it's stupid.
I think you need to get rid of it. And honestly, what our next subject is, I didn't even think about this aspect of it because I don't want to touch All-Pro, but get rid of the Pro Bowl. And, like, get out of here.
It won't because it makes some money.
Well, it won't, but maybe change it with this. Let's just move on to the next segment. So, next week, I think February 6th, we're talking about this because we'll have released the episode and we'll probably have clips talking about this. But the NFL awards proposal. So, next week they announce, like, the MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, yada, yada, yada. Those awards suck, in my opinion. Get rid of MVP, get rid of Offensive Player of the Year, get rid of Defensive Player of the Year, get rid of both Rookie of the Year awards. That is not an accurate way to show recognition to all of the different positions and how they affect the game really in a great light. Because MVP is a quarterback award, unless someone breaks a record.
Well, even with that, Saquon probably still isn't going to win
Exactly. And that's my issue. What we just talked about earlier with how Saquon and Jamar, one of them's leaving without a fucking award. That's stupid. MLB has a better award system than you. Why are you treating this like it's the NBA where there's 5 players on a court that can all honestly affect the game relatively the same way? This is not, football. You have 11 different positions. 11, they should be treated as such. So get rid of Pro Bowl, keep All Pro. This would be something higher than All-Pro. The Player of the Year awards by position-based. So you would have a Quarterback of the Year. Voted the same way, nothing changes, but then, like, quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end, offensive lineman of the year. Because there's 5 All-Pro linemen. Who's the best of the All-Pros? There's 3 All-Pro receivers, or 2. Who's the best? This, honestly, would give you more recognition. And the same on defense. Defensive lineman, linebacker, cornerback, safety of the year. There are always, for All-Pro, a lot of those, there are multiple. Who's the best? That's, players' egos talking. Everyone wants to know who's the best. MVP is not good enough for that. And you could do the same for special teams. Kicker, special teams player. Start recognizing gunners. Players like Matthew Slater would win this award year after fucking year, and he'd have a better case for Hall of Fame, even if he still makes it. So, honestly, you got to change up the awards and make it so that players can get more recognition. I think this is the way to do it.
I agree with you, and I disagree with you a little bit. I definitely think that it is unfortunate that there are guys like Saquon and Jamar that will have the years they had,
and people not don't get remember.
Any
people aren't going to remember that.
I don't want it to turn into all of a sudden we're handing out 1 million awards like kind of college football
does.
And
that's why it's got
everybody gets a trophy.
It has to be precise. But it's got to be limited.
I like the idea of taking, because the All-Pro list I think is very highly sought after.
Build on it.
I like the idea of taking whoever makes the All-Pro list and then having
those are your finalists.
The best of your finalists for a specific award.
There you go. And keep Coach of the Year, keep Walter Payton Man of the Year, keep Assistant of the Year, keep Comeback Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Because that's fine. You can measure the whole league with Comeback Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Not MVP. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so I'm tired of people grouping up positions, like comparing a generational running back to a quarterback. There is no fucking way to compare the two.
Well, if Saquon Barkley if they win the Super Bowl, if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, I can arguably say that this was the greatest season ever by a running back.
Ever.
And he won't get any
nothing.
He won't get anything but a Super Bowl and maybe probably Offensive Player of the Year.
And that's not even a guarantee because Jamar.
But then if it was vice versa, and if say it was Jamar versus say it was the Bengals versus the Eagles in the Super Bowl this year, those two going up against each other, like kind of how Cooper Kupp did with the Triple Crown when they won the Super Bowl for the Rams a couple of years ago.
Yes.
It'd be the same thing to where one of these guys, the MVP was either probably going to, if you take the same year this they had, well, I would probably say that Joe Burrow would be the MVP if they made it to the Super Bowl. And then I would say probably Barkley has the Offensive Player of the Year, and then where does that leave Jamar?
Exactly.
For the season that he had, making it all the way to the Super Bowl,
yes.
Triple Crown, everything.
Not only does this allow you to give more players recognition, it allows you to honestly highlight players more. Instead of, like, my best example, Saquon Barkley, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow all deserve awards this year. And it's likely that 2 of them leave without any. Yeah. Any of them. That's ridiculous. And honestly, you could go further and break it down into AFC and NFC. But I feel like that would be going a little bit far, but that's what the MLB does. And the MLB has silver sluggers and golden gloves. They understand that there's different ways to affect the games, and players get recognized accordingly.
Yeah.
Why can't the NFL do that? This is not the NBA. There are not 5 people on a court.
That is a great argument to the NBA to where realistically everyone's
NBA blocking shots, passing the ball,
scoring,
shooting,
it's
playing
all
defense.
very, very similar.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Can we give an award though to the Giants GM's kid for the prediction he made
about
before the season started?
Yeah, that kid knows ball.
He asked him and said, "Who would
he
you
should get
trade
an award?"
For?
Jaden
Daniels, Dad. He's really good.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that clip.
To wrap that up, though, I do think that
have I swayed you a little bit?
A little bit. I do now. Do you think it will ever happen?
I hope so. I don't think it will, but I will say, like, when I first brought this up, you were someone that was completely against it.
I was completely against it because I didn't like the idea of it. It felt like, oh, well, because you had a good year and you weren't good enough to beat this guy, we're still going to give you an award just to make you feel good.
Let's use you as an example because you were an all-conference player in college, right?
Well, I just think that was a huge because the people who vote for that in my league, it was the coaches that you played against. So to me, I held it as a everyone did of, hey, I did well enough, I did good enough for you, the other team's coach, to go, that kid was really good, that kid impacted the game.
When you were a midfielder, right?
Yes, I mean, I was an offensive midfielder, and I scored a lot of goals.
Yes.
I played a lot of defense at times.
How many people won, or how many people were there with you? How many people made all-conference midfielder?
Out of each conference, there were 3 first-team guys. Okay. And then those 3 first-team guys out of all the conferences got put up to All-Americans.
So my argument would be, do you feel that you had a better season than those 2? Do you think
naturally, yes, of course.
But realistically, like literally, did you? Like looking at the numbers,
Looking at the numbers, no. Looking at the number, now my league was a little bit. There were some teams that kind of cherry picked some games and kind of got their stats higher. Like there were some games to where
there were lots of games you didn't play the second half because you were killing the team.
You had an Ashton Jandy type of season.
I had a little bit to where at the end of the year when all of a sudden we were looking at numbers of who to vote for, mine were just a little bit lower than some of the guys above me, but I can go, you played the whole game in that game. I didn't. That was this one too, this one too, this one too, and I didn't.
So for to use that as an example, what if on top of all conference they had players of the year, midfielder of the year, and because you had those stats with way less minutes played, they decided to recognize you as the most important and best?
In theory, yes.
How would that feel?
In theory, yes.
How would that feel?
It would feel great, yes. In theory.
That's my point.
Because then you kind of feel like, hey, just because I didn't have the best stats, I was still voted on by my peers because I had the most impact within the game, regardless of if I had 5 more goals than the guy above me.
Your position. It is strictly your position. You're not being measured up against a goalie.
Or an attackman, who, of course, they're going to score more goals than a midfielder. Yes.
That's my point. That's my point.
Yes, I agree with you, and I definitely think it would be.
I hope it happens.
Taking it to like NFC and AFC, I think would be too much. That'd just be kind of throwing stuff out. But I do like the idea of rewarding offense alignment, rewarding defense alignment, and giving them also like some more motivation and pride to like play for your team. Then that only comes with, hey, if you do that a couple times a year, all of a sudden you get a team to throw the bag at you, and you're set for life. The same way some of these guys are.
Well, each division, they can take each division though.
My position.
Take each division and literally pick the best position player at that position. So build an entire team in each division. So out of every 4 teams,
well, that's
and
the
then
all-pro
from there, then build
all division.
Well, it is kind of, but then build it. Then build it from there and select that best player.
Well, I feel like you can't because the divisions aren't even. Like there are shit divisions, and you look at those teams and be like, that sucks. Like,
yeah, but they wouldn't win. They wouldn't actually get the big award. They might win for their 4 teams.
I do. I think there needs to be a step above all pro, and I think the MVP and Offensive Player of the Year awards are stupid.
They're very vanilla.
Yes.
When you really break it down,
they're boring.
It's very boring and vanilla. But this guy did this, and this guy did this, and this guy.
What it does,
well, this year's the perfect year for your argument, though, of having Jamar Chase and having Saquon doing what they're doing. It's going to be a shame when Saquon wins the Super Bowl.
Saquon even sat out a game. He could have had an unbelievable stat, but he was like, it's more important for me to get to the playoffs, to get to the Super Bowl.
Another point. Get rid of, the same way you're doing this, get rid of the offensive and defensive rookies of the year and do the same thing for the rookies, because Brock Bowers is not getting a fucking award this year.
That's another great example.
Malik Neighbors broke records. He's not getting recognized. There are so many people that could be recognized and should be.
But I play a little devil's advocate, though, is it just shows how hard it is to win those awards, no matter how good you are.
Hard or unfair?
Well, maybe a little bit of both.
Because it's a quarterback award. A quarterback is going to win, but Brock Bowers.
Maybe a little bit of both, but then it also it builds with as just how these athletes are of, okay, cool.
Chip on the
I
shoulder.
didn't win it when I did all this. Look what I'm going to do next year. Look what I'm going to do the year after that.
Yeah.
So I see both sides of it, of being, playing and kind of going through the process of how this stuff is kind of voted for. In my level, I'm not saying I was in the NFL, of course not, but in my level of how this stuff kind of, I could imagine that it's very similar to people who vote, and I don't know exactly who votes, but yes, that is a great another of Brock Bowers kind of getting all the records he broke.
It makes too much sense, man. It makes way too much sense, which means it's never going to happen.
No, it won't. Unfortunately, probably not.
It would stop the conversations that we're having right now, and that's what they want. So
they like it to be very
divided,
plain, and keep it the same.
Yes.
To kind of not wrap up, but our pick'em winner that we kept on
Chris,
going.
do you have a white flag?
Like
a white piece of paper?
Dawson ran away with this, Dylan. I hate to break it to you.
You have a white flag.
But you let your Bears influence affect you through the season. If you wouldn't have picked the Bears every single week, this might have been a little closer.
It would have been.
Yeah.
So at least 5 or 6 of those are Bears picks.
The punishment that we have kind of come up with some of our team and some of the guys, with golf coming up, and golf is a hot topic with TGL that we've been talking about. The punishment is Dylan is going to play a full course with one club.
One club. That's driving.
Do we get to pick the club?
No, so I thought about that.
I am picking a 7-iron.
It'd be too boring if we said, hey, you got to play the whole round with a 60-degree. Like, that would be just way too much time.
I'm picking my 7-iron. It's one of my best clubs anyways.
So I think a 7-iron is fair.
I am going to have to drive. I'm going to have to chip. I'm going to have to putt.
Everything. So
you might actually play better, Dylan, with a 7-iron in your hand the whole game versus grabbing that driver out of your bag.
Give him like a 5-iron.
I don't even have a driver in my bag yet.
Maybe a 7-iron is a little too easy. Maybe I don't know. We'll think. But I'm definitely not going to put a 60-degree wedge.
I'm still an amateur golfer, all right, guys. I just started a year ago.
I think we put a 5-iron in his hand.
A 5-iron?
We're going to videotape this round, too.
You know what? I'll use my 4 hybrid. I like my 4.
That would also be a funny club.
I swing the shit out of my 4
That would be a funny. But yes, that will be the punishment for coming in last. I get nothing for winning. Besides watching you
bragging rights.
So that'll be fun. We'll film that. And then to go on top of that, like we've kind of mentioned, we're going to try to build it up.
No bets of the week this week. Kind of sad. I was going through making our notes, and
Well, why are you sad? You did terrible on bets of the week this year. So
yeah, that's true. That's true.
I'm sorry to bring that back up. It's okay. There's always
fine.
next year.
It's fine,
There's always
I guess.
next year.
I am going to make a statement next year. I'm not bringing Bears well,
no.
I'm gonna make better
Here we go,
picks.
the life of a Bears fan.
I'm gonna make better picks.
I can't wait till we come out and a couple months go by. We've got we're gonna do our prediction for the NFC.
Bears
AFC.
are winning the Super Bowl.
Bears are 1 seed. Yeah, no. We'll get there again.
Yeah.
We'll get there. But yes, it was a really fun season. I'm glad
I'm only wrong until I'm right.
We actually have, I believe, me and Austin are in a dead tie to whoever has the best record overall.
Whoever picks the Super Bowl.
And before we did this,
you have to pick the Eagles.
I told everyone, whoever has the best record between game picks and player props all combined, I will buy them a Barstool betting sweatshirt, the ones that they sell on their store. So I'm either buying myself one or I'm buying Austin one because me and him are
Does
literally
it come down
tied.
to the Super Bowl?
It comes down to the Super Bowl.
Well, you have to pick other separate teams.
Yeah. So, or if I pick, I don't know. We've got.
You could pick the score too. You're gonna have to do a score.
Do the score.
We'll probably
over,
do the
under,
score,
and then
we'll
a
do
team.
A player prop, and we'll do whoever wins the game. We'll do 3 just to kind of avoid a tie.
Yeah, I like that.
But yes, it has come down to me and Austin, and that was kind of the deal that I made everyone. Whoever wins, that's what I'll get for whoever wins.
All right.
So I'm either buying myself one, which would be pretty cool because they are pretty cool sweatshirts. Yeah. Or I'm going to send Austin one. So, Austin, I'm sure you're watching. Just
hell yeah.
You've got a week to try and beat me.
Lock in. Lock in, boys.
But yes, thank you again. A lot to talk about. You have any comments about any of the head coaches, any of the officiating? I know that is a huge, everyone's on social media is talking about it and complaining or saying you're being dramatic or whatever. Let us know what you think. Subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify for the full videos. Don't forget social media clips, TikTok, Instagram. And
give us a follow. Give us a follow so you don't miss any content.
Hey, no, guys. Let's congratulate ourselves on 200 subscribers on YouTube.
All right.
300 more, and then we can start making money on this.
Yeah. Start monetizing some stuff, bringing in some sponsors. And we've got a lot of guests lined up after this Super Bowl and after this is all over, leading into the offseason.
We've been talking to potential NFL players. We've got college.
We have a guy who works down in Miami who does a lot of stuff with the Dolphins, who is very invested in the draft.
We played football with him. He played 4 years in college.
He was an all-conference player at Gardner-Webb.
Yep.
So that will be really cool to pick his brain on some of the guys that he's been assigned to kind of look at and look into. So he'll bring some great insight when the draft comes around and the combine and all those great things in April. But yes, other than that, we will see you guys next time. Drop all your comments and talk to you guys later.
Sir, it's been real, guys.